Empty Hats share how they rewrote a traditional off-color song about magicians for a modern age, and I share a song about the son of a werewolf from Harry Potter. It's Pub Songs and Stories, show number 237. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. This is the virtual public house for musicians to share the stories and inspiration behind their music with your host, Marc Gunn. Subscribe to the podcast at pubsong.com. Welcome to Pub Songs and Stories. This is Marc Gunn, and I know this is coming out after Dragon Con, but I'm recording it right before Dragon Con, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit on the concerned side. 42,000 people they're capping the convention at, and which is awesome, considering it's usually like twice that. But nevertheless, I'm going to be out there performing all weekend, and there's going to be a lot of people I'll be interacting with. It's a little nerve-wracking, let's just say that. I certainly wouldn't mind a magician or two to, more than just a good mask to keep me away from COVID and whatnot. But we have plans, and I'm sure it's going to go great. Hopefully I can report that very thing after this convention is over. Go visit my blog at marcgunn.com, and you can see my report about the convention. Today's show is brought to you by my Gunn Runners on Patreon. They are my inspiration for putting this show out, hopefully on a weekly basis. We're still on that test run to see if that's going to happen. But I want to send a big thanks to my newest patrons, Sharon, Martin, and Johnny. Also, I want to see if anyone out there would be interested in helping produce this show. So here's the deal. My goal is to put out at least 3 stories each and every month, but it does require some time to try to reach out to people and make that happen. Obviously, I get a lot of submissions for the Irish and Celtic Music podcast, and because of that, this podcast as well. But now I just need the stories. And every now and then I get a burst of new submissions, but the stories are typically timeless because, again, this is the stories and inspiration behind the music. So I need someone to contact some of these artists directly and say, if you're listening to the Irish and Celtic Music podcast and you hear something that you want to know more about, you can always email someone and say, hey, can you tell me more about, not just tell me more about it, would you be willing to tell others more about the background behind the song for Pub Songs and Stories? That's basically the producer that I'm looking for this show. It is an unpaid internship. I'm just looking for someone to help me out with that. If you're interested, drop me an email. You can send it to celticpodcast@gmail.com. I have 3 upcoming shows this weekend, September 16th through 19th. I'll be at Gen Con in Indianapolis. Thursday, September 23rd, I'm doing Hobbit drinking songs as part of my Celtfather live monthly concerts on Bandcamp. You can get tickets for $8 over in my store. And October 2nd, I'll be at Firemaker Brewing Company in Atlanta. It's a new show, so come on out and join me. All right, let's get on with the show. Today, I have another chat with Carl Ash. He, of course, plays with the group Empty Hats. And we were at the Sherwood Forest Fair earlier this year, and he made changes to a traditional Scottish song called Twa Magicians because it was a little bit of off color. It wasn't updated for the modern age. There are a lot of those traditional songs that you gotta take a second glance at if there's something you want to share about. He'll tell you all about it in his story right now.
Good day, one and all. I'm Giacomo the Jester, and I am here for Origin Stories of Songs. So I have a song that I play with Empty Hats. It is a duet with Looney Lucy, who is by far one of the funniest characters that has ever performed at Renaissance festivals. And she and I do this song together called The Two Magicians. And when I first heard this song and I knew that I wanted to do this song, it was a great song, really fun melody, really fun lyrics. The problem with the song is that it kind of bespeaks of non-consensual relationships. So I decided this song was essentially about a rape, and I didn't want to sing that song. So what I decided to do was I restructured the beginning of the song, and then Looney Lucy, played by Linda Cavey, who is just brilliant, we rewrote the lyrics that go back and forth between the two characters and made it their dance. We made it their flirtatious dance. So it was no longer non-consensual. It was their flirtation together, and I think it turned out really well. The other important thing about this song that I have learned over the years, if you are doing a song that has a punchline, always write it so that Looney Lucy gets that punchline. You don't want me doing the punchline. You want her doing it. And, and now that I said that, I do it in this song. But all the other songs that we do, Looney Lucy does the punchline. I'm sorry, I totally ruined my own story. That'll teach me. All right, well, there you have it. And then Mark is going to play that song for you. And I hope you enjoy it.
That was awesome.
A lady sits at her own front door, waiting on her man. By there came a lusty smith with his hammer in his hand, saying, "You are such a maiden fair, all in your robes of red. How will you take me in your arms and have me in your bed?"
Away, away, you cold blacksmith, what do you do say is wrong? Dost thou think a lass like me can be had for just a song?
He sang, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride."
So the lady, she took out her wand, held it high in her hand. She turned herself into a cloud, said, "Catch me if you can."
So the blacksmith shook his hammer, and it turned to a magic stick. So he became a lightning bolt, poured his sap into her quick. He sang, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride."
So the lady, she turned into a fish, a-swimming in the brook.
So he became a fishing rod, for to catch her with his hook.
But the lady, she turned into a fly, flew up into the air.
So he became a hairy spider, for to drag her into his lair, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride."
Then the lady, she turned into a rose bush in the wood.
So he became a bumblebee, for to sting her where she stood.
Ouch! But the lady, she turned into a horse, dark as the night is black.
So he became a golden saddle, for to climb onto her back, singing, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride." So the lady, she turned into a man, leered upon him good. So he became a bonny lass,
And she took him where he stood,
singing, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride." Singing, "Bide, lady, bide, your lust for me don't hide. This dusty smith will be your love, so lay aside your pride."
I hope you enjoyed that performance by Carl Ash of Empty Hats. If you want to find out more about them, you can go to emptyhats.com. That's from their album, The Hat Came Back. And go support them. You can also find them on the socials, too. Support what you love. If the show makes you happy, then join the Gunn Runners Club on Patreon. Your support pays for the production and promotion of my music and this podcast. And if you have questions or comments, drop me an email. Now, next week, I have a live podcast that's going to be coming out from DragonCon. Since probably 2006, I've been going to DragonCon and doing a live concert as part of the Pub Songs podcast, and it is still going. So next week, I'll be sharing that show with you, and I should have some more stories coming for you in October. But first, I have my own story to share. There is a Celtic rock band out of Helsinki, Finland, who submitted to the Irish and Celtic Music podcast early on in the show. I think it must have been 2006 or 2007. The band is called Red Hill Rats, and they're fantastic. One of the listeners to the podcast, Peg Kerr, she loved the song so much and is also a filker. She ended up writing this parody that I'm going to share with you today. It is called My Father Was a Werewolf, and it's all about Teddy Lupin from the final books of Harry Potter. Teddy, of course, was the son of Remus Lupin and Nymphadora Tonks. In my studio recording, which you can find on my album, What Color Is Your Dragon, I'm particularly fond of the Paul Stanley shouts at the end of the song. Any case. So without further ado, I'm going to play My Father Was a Werewolf for you. I hope you have a great time, and I look forward to sharing next week's live podcast from Dragon Con. I'll talk to you later. Sláinte. My father was a werewolf, a marauder, one of four, who joined the order and who fought for Albus Dumbledore. My mother was an auror brave who sped upon her broom and loved the man with the scarred up face whose boggart was the moon. Lord Voldemort rose again. I heard he caused some harm with cruel men in the silver masks and the dark mark on their arms. Those Death Eaters had no fear, no shame, and no remorse. There were burning houses left behind and 100 broken doors. Come all ye wizards, hear the story of the ones that fell by me, a fire, whiskey, and a beer, and heed the tale I tell. If you have chocolate about you, repel those demon doors, and if this story spooks your wits, then I'll tell you something more. On a nighttime visit, he encountered some old friends and told him he was leaving, that his marriage he must end. When Harry called him coward, the wolf rose in his eyes, but he left to go back home to her and to apologize. The Whomping Willow stands right there behind a wooded hill, and I cannot pass by there without thinking about him still. The Shrieking Shack stands in that field, its windows all agape, haunted by his memory and the ghost of Severus Snape. Come all ye wizards, hear the story of the ones that fell by me, a fire, whiskey, and a beer, and heed the tale I tell. If you have chocolate about you, repel those demon doors, and if the story spooks your wits, then I'll tell you something more. I believe he truly loved her, but both left me behind and fell in battle fighting for the rest of wizard kind. My mother was an auror, my godfather's the chosen one, but my father was a werewolf, and I am a werewolf's son. Yes, my father was a werewolf, that makes me a werewolf's son. Pub Songs Podcast is produced by Marc Gunn. The show is edited by Mitchell Peterson with graphics by Miranda Nelson Designs. You can subscribe and listen wherever you find podcasts. You can also subscribe to my mailing list. You will get regular updates of new music, podcasts, special offers, and you'll get 21 songs for free. Welcome to the pub at pubsong.com. The pub at pubsong.com.